Well, welcome. Thank you very much for coming and for this discussion. I just want to thank the Museum of Photographic Arts and the host today. I'm Scott Lewis. I'm the CEO at the Voice of San Diego, and I'm honored, obviously, to host this discussion and to moderate such a wonderful panel. Richard, thank you so much for coming. And Mayor, I think we're all, on behalf of San Diego, is really proud that you would engage in a discussion like this, so thanks for coming. I wanted to briefly introduce the rest of the panel. If you wouldn't mind, Margaret, would you start and talk about just who you are? We'll go through who everybody is, and then we'll begin the discussion.
I know our time is short. I'll keep it brief. My name is Margaret Dooley-Samueli, Senior Policy Advocate with the ACLU here in San Diego.
Good afternoon. My name is Daniel Romero. I'm a 30-year addict, 20 years incarceration. Getting on the right track and breaking the taboo.
Great. Mayor, we know you. Richard, we know you. Just
yeah, but you're not, I have to say, I'm here just for a free plane ride. Maybe.
Oh, yeah? And Mark?
I'm here for a free pass to the city. So.
Mayor, did you bring the key to the city? Or? I did. Mark, would you introduce yourself?
Sure. Mark Fawcett, Vice President of Amity Foundation. We have a facility here in San Diego, Los Angeles, and we also work in the state prisons.
Well, thank you. Richard, I wanted to start with you. The name of the movie at first felt very odd for me. Now I've watched it, and it makes sense. But what is the taboo? Just describe it. What is the taboo in your opinion?
Well, I think that you've had 40 years of politicians not being brave enough when they're in power to stand up and say what they think privately and what they say when they're not in power. And basically what we now need is the taboo to be broken so that you get braver politicians who will actually do what they know is to be right rather than what they think is politically correct for them, or politically, what's the word, helpful, safe for them to do.
Well, this whole show framed the discussion as something that they were unwilling to talk about, and that's how the documentary came out. But with so much stark facts and results that we've looked at, how can you not wonder whether there's something more nefarious going on about why it continues like this? What has been your take? And have you concluded that there's something worse going on than just ignorance or unwillingness to talk about a problem?
I think it's politicians just not being brave. I'm not sure I would say it's people wanting to fill up the prisons and make lots of money, or other industries trying to suppress this particular industry or whatever. I think it's cowardice actually that's is at the heart of it. There's not one politician that I've ever met who doesn't know that the right thing to do is to treat drugs as a health problem, not a criminal problem.
Not one.
I can't think of any. I'm talking on a one-to-one basis as individuals when you talk to them. I mean, you just ask them. Would you, if you have, do you have children? Yes. If they had a problem, would you like to send them to prison, or would you like them to be helped? Do you have a brother and sister? Yes. If they have a drug problem, I'm sure Bill Clinton, who has a brother with a drug problem, he wouldn't have wanted him to be sent to prison, when he was in power.
Mayor, I've heard people say a lot of things about you, but not being brave is not one of them. Let me ask you this. You bring not only the perspective of a local municipality. In fact, you've spent decades working, or a long time working in the federal government as a congressman. If we were to, let's say the taboo got broken, and we were to address this problem and start to roll back things, how would you even begin to roll back the war on drugs in the United States?
You rolled it back with prohibition. So.
But we've got, well, not only laws, but billions of dollars. One person's savings is another person's job, right?
Well, let me just look at it from a very provincial, insular point of view here. We're having this debate right now. Sir Richard, you may call me Sir Bob. That about medical marijuana. He still thinks he does the jokes here. I mean, I can see it.
I was going to say you can call me Sadiq, but anyway, carry on.
It's not the size that counts. Let me just take it from.
Come on, girls, be supportive.
Let's take it from the little perspective that we have here in San Diego. We're having a debate over medical marijuana. You know, as you know, the state of California has approved it, has given cities the opportunity to make regulations. The federal government has decided that somehow they know better, and they should. Doesn't worry what the state said, what a city said. They're going to enforce the laws. And just start with that little thing. That's where I would start. Let the federal government give us some relaxation where there has been both federal both state and local indication of wanting to control in a different way, and let us do it. That begins to put in motion other things. And frankly, I mean, I've talked to the Attorney General, I've talked to the President. I don't know why, given what California's done and then what various cities in California done, the Drug Enforcement Agency, the U.S. attorneys, are pursuing a policy of, I call it persecution, not just prosecution, in this state and this city. I mean, let us do this in a way, and let's see how it occurs. I mean, I think when we have, you said, how would you do it? Step by step, let's just do it in the steps that where states and localities have said, we want a more enlightened and more rational stance, especially on medical marijuana. I would allow, by the way, medical marijuana to be sold in pharmacies. Let the federal government say, let it be done. I mean, there's stuff a lot harder than marijuana in pharmacies. We have a whole way of dealing with that. It would so normalize a situation that you begin to take a different stance.
You're talking about the conflict between federal law, which says that marijuana is still a felony narcotic, and there is a push. There's a congressman from Oregon, one of your former colleagues, who's pushing to make it so that local jurisdictions and states that ease criminalization or legalize marijuana could be free from those federal
right. I mean, I had legislation when I was in Congress to do that, and that's, you know, it would bring, it seems to me, the different parties together, you know, states' rights. Where are the Republicans, you know, when the states do this, why are they insisting on the kind of persecution that occurs? So your initial question was, where do you start? I mean, I would start with those localities and those states that have expressed through will of the voters that there ought to be a more intelligent, rational discussion of this, and let the federal government slowly step out of that, or rapidly step out of it, and we'll see that the world is not going to collapse. What I'm trying to do here in San Diego is families that have, every one of us has a family member who has chronic health problems or cancer and has pain that medical marijuana seems to alleviate. We should allow compassionate access to that, and I think we'll see that the world is a lot better and not collapsing around us.
Margaret, I want to talk to you really quickly. There are 4 basic fronts that you described that we can actually affect or we can be a part of in this local jurisdiction. Describe those.
Well, you know, this is a huge priority for the ACLU nationally and in California. We're investing a lot of resources because now is a historic time in California, nationally, but especially in California, to move away from failed drug war tactics and toward saner criminal justice practices and specifically a health approach to drugs. One issue is, you know, where does the road of the drug war lead? It leads right here with a state prison population that is so overcrowded. The U.S. Supreme Court says you've got to do something about it. And it leads right here with the state saying, okay, our response is we're closing state prison doors to anybody convicted of a low-level offense, or most people, and that means suddenly, and says, okay, it's county's responsibility, which means drug policy in California suddenly is a county issue. Not solely, there's federal, state, but increasingly local decisions are really shaping what our drug policies are. Then there's healthcare reform. If we want a public health approach, a health approach to drugs. We don't want to give the money to law enforcement to say implement a public health approach. We need to build and reinforce an infrastructure of health that can address, that can provide drug treatment. And so as we see healthcare reform take shape, and we will be able to say, not just we're against the war on drugs, but this is what we're for. So the taboo used to be you couldn't say that the drug war had failed. Now you can say it, but the real question is, well, what now? So the taboo I think we're breaking now is, what does good drug policy look like? And this is a really important year for that. And the last, of course, is changing public opinion around marijuana. California was the first state in the country to legalize medical marijuana in 1996. But the bigger solution is what we saw in the film they were discussing in the 1970s. So one hopes that we've recovered from the nightmare of we're too afraid to talk about a failed drug war, and that we are really in this historic opportunity to change our approach for the better.
Mark, whenever this, I'll give you this, by the way. By the way, this isn't just a one-way discussion. We're going to open this up for talking as well. Also, on behalf of my wife and other people at home that can't be here, if you wouldn't mind tweeting at Break the Taboo with the hashtag, that would help people follow. Maybe Break the Taboo San Diego or SD if there's too many on there. Mark, you're on the front lines of this issue. Whenever this discussion comes up in settings that I'm at, any kind of anti-drug voice is always saying, well, I don't want it to escalate. I've seen firsthand drug abuse and the problems. What would you tell them when they're worried about embracing or breaking the taboo actually means use going up or problems going up?
Good afternoon again. What I would tell them is that we need to start looking in. We need to start looking in communities like San Diego, not just as the individual person who has the addiction, who typically in California ends up in the criminal justice system, which definitely needs to change, but also all of these men and women that are being incarcerated due to their addiction have enormous amount of children associated with them. And when we think about the different conflicts that we have with the state budgets and local budgets, we need to be thinking about, do we want to invest in our children? Do we want to invest in the schools? Or do we want to invest in incarceration in prisons? And I really think that's often forgot throughout our communities.
Danny, prison didn't fix you?
Hey, good afternoon. I did close to 20 years in prison. That's prison. That's not including county time and juvenile time. And no, it didn't. It just, it kind of dehumanized me more. I think it took a lot from me. I know that my addiction wasn't, how can I say, it wasn't something that I think I grew up around it. It was something that I learned as a child. And I think a lot of that other stuff, as far as my behaviors and the way I started to see life, was demonstrated to me as a child. I grew up in East LA. I grew up in the projects. From there, my mother brought me here to San Diego. She tried to get me to clean up and do something different. That didn't work. I got arrested here multiple times, went to prison, and kind of adapted to that. I think for me it was just much easier just to deal with that instead of having to deal with me as far as the person that I was. And because I knew there was something different. I knew my upbringing was supposed to be something different. But to see it and to go through it was two different things, because as a child I was taught something different. And that's what I believed in. And going to prison enhanced it. Because let me tell you, them guards in there don't give you that ample time where they don't teach you morals. They don't teach you, you know what I mean? You get dehumanized in there. There's days where they would throw us out in the yard and naked, in the snow, and like I can go on and on with different things. And
How did you survive? Why are you here today?
Well, I survived, thankful for I was introduced to Amity in prison, and I just happened to land there, and Mark was there and he pulled me through. But, you know, it's like, that was a human thing to do.
Richard, you've had the privilege to be part of this commission to see firsthand countries that have broken the taboo, as was talked about. What kind of progress have you seen up front?
I think that people who are frightened in America about changing the current laws, they ought to go and visit places like Portugal, Spain, Switzerland, Germany. You know, as a business person, if one of my businesses is broke, and the drug war was broke 40 years ago, I'll change tact. And one of the things I'll do is I'll look at the way other businesses are run around the world. I mean, I know you've just seen the film, but Portugal, you know, is remarkable. I mean, the amount of breaking and enterings for drug-related breaking and enterings into people's homes has dropped by 90%. I mean, it's an enormous benefit to society. The amount of people who contract HIV from dirty needles has dropped by about 60, 70%. The amount of people who are picking up hepatitis C from dirty needles has dropped by, again, about 70%. The marijuana use has not increased; it's decreased. You know, so it's been a win on every single area. And we're not just talking about marijuana; we're talking about all drugs. They're basically saying nobody will go to prison if they have a drug problem. If somebody has a drug problem, they have a problem. And very often they don't actually want to have that drug problem. And again, as was said in the film, it's only about 10% of people who take drugs who actually end up with a problem, but that's a lot of people, and those people need to be helped. And if they're helped, society benefits from it.
Mayor, if a coalition of mayors, your counterparts, asked you to sign a letter calling for the decriminalization of all drugs, if not outright legalization, would you sign it?
We'd like him to be mayor a bit longer. Let's just slow up the questioning, please.
He can say no. That's okay.
But look, decriminalization.
How brave do you want me to be? I mean, come on. Look, I want to deal with this in a way that moves us forward, frankly. I mean,
Okay.
you know, a political leader has got to be brave, I think, has got to take positions, but you don't want to go off, you know, the deep end. You got to bring people along with you.
Is calling for decriminalization going off the deep
When
end?
you said, you added some stuff. You said all drugs, and you said, I mean, I don't know. I mean, look, the way that the film has defined it, and as Richard has defined it, is, I think, a great way. That is, it's a health problem. That we have to see it as a health problem. And anything we can do to do that is what we ought to be doing. And that's what I would like to be involved in.
Okay. One quick thing, and we'll move into the audience questions. Margaret, I saw you getting excited. You're on the front lines of policy. These guys are on the front lines of public health. What would you want from leaders?
Well, ultimately, brave elected officials need to get reelected. So this goes to you in the audience and to every voter. You know, we need to back up elected officials that are willing to be brave and that are willing to push smart policy and mean that it's no longer going to cost them the next election. So it really comes to us. So on that, I have just a quick note. On your way out, you can help do this today. Senator Leno in California has introduced legislation, SB 649. Thank you, Mr. Branson, Sir Richard, for your wonderful op-ed in the UT today endorsing SB 649. There's a postcard on the way out. Basically, this would roll back just slightly the very, very harsh drug possession penalty in California. If you have a little bit of drugs in your pocket, it can still land you in prison for 3 years. That's California. It's still the case. So please take a postcard, take action, and we can deliver this to your elected officials so they know that they can do this and be reelected. Thanks.
Okay, audience questions? Please try to keep them brief. I'll go you and then you, so go ahead.
Hi. You know, we talk a lot about money focusing on campaign finance reform will allow our politicians to be braver and bolder and will give us a better class of politicians. And I'd like to see if you have any opinion on that.
For those of you who couldn't hear, she was talking about campaign finance reform perhaps being an antidote to the non-braveness of our politicians. Do you think that's, it seems kind of roundabout, but Bob, do you want to answer?
I haven't heard, frankly, I mean, I agree with the first point. There's too much money in politics, too much private money in politics. We should have public financing of elections. I mean, to me, that's pretty clear. I'm not sure the relationship between, I see the relationship between money, say, development interests in San Diego. I'm not sure that I see the relationship between money and the drug problem. I mean, nobody's supporting any of us, you know, for being, you know, nobody gets money from cartels for being.
Well, what about?
So I'm not sure what you mean by that.
What about prison guards? Yeah.
Well, I suppose negative ads against anybody that puts their hand up and tries to support.
Yeah, but I mean, you're drawing a line of nexus between somehow those who are making money off the drugs versus. I mean, I'm losing you somewhere in that because.
They're getting the politicians elected that they want by
Yeah.
putting up negative ads against the brave politicians because they say something that's smart.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah, but
I agree.
it's not that they have a vested interest in it. I mean, this is ideological or somehow not. It's
Sure.
not. I mean, the
Let's take
cartels are not funding, as far as I could tell.
Let's take another one. Sir, do you want
the political campaigns.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Paul Walton. I used to be a high school teacher here in San Diego, and I'm here with my 94-year-old father, who's a World War II veteran. We both agree wholeheartedly in the film that we just saw, and we thank you very, very much for bringing it here to San Diego. Mr. Branson, I believe that I first met you at the inauguration of, the first inauguration of Barack Obama. And the question I have is, if you could return back to Washington and have a private meeting with our president today, what would you tell him?
Well, since we're talking about this particular subject, yeah, I think I would say, yeah, what perhaps what I've already said to this audience, but I mean just you know, please learn from other countries, you know, be brave, at the very least. Decriminalize, treat drugs as a health problem, not a criminal problem, and those states that are actually voting for legalization of marijuana, you know, please do not interfere or let the state interfere, which hopefully I thought they weren't doing in America, in Washington, but anyway, you know, those two. But what would you say?
What would I say if I had a private meeting? If I had a private meeting
this subject.
with Mr. Barack Obama on this subject, I would say, actually, quite frankly, like our mayor, Bob Filner, be brave. You know, I know you're worried about the next election, but actually you, Barack Obama, are not worried about the next election. So this is your chance to be brave and actually make a stand and realize the consequences of these failed policies, of these failed actions. It's almost criminal to have 2.3 million people classified as criminals in our justice system. It's an embarrassment to the world. And so I would clearly say, Mr. Barack Obama, please come out, make a stand, and let's hope that the states will follow in your stand.
Very good.
Just
And as
just
a,
a bit
and,
of-
and sorry, and as a black president, those 2.4 million are principally black people, and it's the black population that suffers even more.
The issue with the disconnect between Washington and the states is the U.S. attorneys are prosecuting, including in San Diego, what is considered by state law to be a legal practice or close to legal in some cases. So I think that And they're just now deciding what to do about Washington and Colorado, the two states that legalized it, because those U.S. attorneys are mandated to prosecute, but obviously the states have passed it. So, sure.
Real quickly about that, I think the fact that we haven't seen a rapid and heavy federal response to Colorado and Washington, where voters approved legalization of marijuana, I think that really is telling about the times that we're in as well.
Is it? But we saw that here, and then all of a sudden there was a crackdown. There was just this, it's almost vacillating up and down, it feels like.
Well, there are different attorneys.
Yeah.
But
Who knew
do
they
have the
had so
same
much
attorney
freedom?
general.
Ma'am.
So my name's Norma Chavez. I'm the Associate Director of our local ACLU. And our national office recently, I think about a week or 2 weeks ago, released a report about the racial bias in criminalizing and arresting African American folks around just marijuana. And they have, just crazy statistics broken down by state and county level. So I'm wondering, how do we have this conversation to break the taboo and have the conversation about race in this country?
Mark, do you want to take that?
Well, I think there's a lot of truth to that, and I think that we as a community need to face that. We at Amity are teaching a lot about, how important it is to talk about racism in our community and in our world. And this isn't, the work that we're doing isn't about, like what we saw in the movie, what drugs do to your brain, or this is your brain on drugs. There's a lot of cultural issues that we need to address, a lot of community building that we need to make happen. And we need as a community to embrace that. I mean, San Diego is a model for doing things right. We need to do more of it. We know that treatment works. With the funds that came to counties like San Diego recently through prison realignment, San Diego is making a big difference in investing in treatment. And there's great treatment facilities in San Diego, other than Amity, that are doing some great work, and also in the prison. Right here in San Diego, a stone's throw from the border was a 200-bed in-prison program that Amity had, and they're completely reversing the recidivism rate of those inmates that completed both in the prison and in the community. And those things make a difference, and we need to challenge the issues of people of color entering our criminal justice system.
Danny, let me ask you a question. So the film talked about people when they go into prison, it often gets worse. And if they didn't go in with a habit, they came out with one. Did you see that?
I've seen many of the men go in there and go in there not addicted and came out addicted. Went in there were just a simple marijuana charge and came out a heroin user. I seen my own brother die in prison of a heroin overdose. I can go on with numerous things that I've seen happen, and not through any of that though has, I think any help came. And I think the other day, the lady was talking about money. We added up, I think it was well over $1 million that the state has spent on me, incarcerating me. And that's, and it took 2 years for somebody else to teach me how to live life, right? 2 years, and not only that, and my son's got a father. My mother's, she's okay now. I'm the worst one, she says. I was the youngest one. She goes, oh my God, you gave me more trouble than any of your brothers. But I mean, she's in peace today, and I think that it goes beyond the money part, and I think the mayor was talking, it goes beyond, it does. It does go beyond that. I mean, yeah, we need the money, but it goes beyond that. It's a human thing to do. Right. I'm a citizen today. I'm not taking your guys' things no more.
Richard, did you have something?
Look, I joked with the mayor about not being brave enough on the decriminalization of hard drugs. I mean, the decriminalization of heroin, if you can back it up with centers where people can go to get help, it works. I mean, it works in every country it's used, in every city it's used, and most heroin addicts want to be helped. And if they're not helped, they get HIV or they get hepatitis C, and they end up dying from it and spreading it. So it is good for society that heroin is decriminalized, and that that the money that you save from putting people in prison costs about a third to treat them through clinics. So it's not really a brave thing to do, because in the countries that have grasped the nettle, like Switzerland and Germany and Portugal and Spain, it works, and it works for society as well as for the individual.
Well,
Politically, Richard, what you just said is really important, because if you just say decriminalization, but don't add the health clinics and the other kinds of resources you need, then most people listening just hear, oh, you're just going to let these people out of jail. I mean, or they won't go to jail. We have to find a way to put it in a comprehensive way, in a quick way. That costs money too, but I think we can argue how much cheaper that would be in the long run. By the way, we just had, these issues. Nobody wants to look at homeless people, right? Well, somebody decided, United Way, I think in San Diego, decided if you took the 25 most chronic homeless, just 25 people, and gave them shelter, what that would save money. It cost $1 million per individual here in San Diego for those 25 people. It now costs, I think, $100,000 because we gave them shelter. Incredible savings, just in those 25 people. We need to show that in the cases you brought up, and we probably need to do it with some specific factual thing, but it has, I think you have to, when I hear you talk about decriminalization, plus the health, I have a whole different view of it, and I'm sure all of my constituents would too. So I think we have to learn, politically, to talk about it in a way where people are educated and not just turned off. I think as I listen, because I could make that argument about healthcare. I can't make it just the word decriminalization.
Got it. This guy's excited to talk. What's up?
It's actually a question, but also a proposal. I was born in Tijuana, and I lived many places. When I came back, I had to move to San Diego because Tijuana had a bad situation, but also a bad label.
Right.
My background is in branding, and I see what happened to Tijuana in the last 5 years. Now the mayor is with us there, eating at very nice restaurants and looking at art. I think the challenge is very happy to see Richard Branson here. This is a challenge of communication. For braveness, politicians need to know or perceive that they're going to have support. And this is not very good branding because my wife is not here. She was not interested in coming here. And my son is a prospective victim. So we need to do a very good branding. I read once that they changed the war on terror, the war to Iraq. They changed the word, and now everybody supports war on terror. But nobody supported war on Iraq because there are children there.
So,
So we need a good job in branding. I think, Richard, we need to get together. Yeah, because that will change a lot.
we're going to huddle. We'll figure it out. So his question was, he's from Tijuana. He's frustrated about the branding of this. And I think you even referenced the film, that sends a bad brand.
It unites the people who can design the strategy, but it's a branding
Right.
strategy.
What about the branding? I mean, you've branded products, initiatives for years. Is this branded poorly?
I 100% agree the importance of branding, the film was made by my son, and I thought it was quite a strong brand, breaking the taboo, as for a film, and by the way, the next film he's doing is looking at prostitution on the grounds that, okay, well, if this applies to drugs,
I'm not that brave.
but I won't embarrass the
Thought you were
mayor
coming after
by
me.
going into the details on why it actually may well make sense there as well. But anyway, the taboo, the general branding issue, yeah, is well, very important.
We have time for one more question. It has to be brief, though. Do you?
At the back, yeah.
All right.
Female
Can
and
you
at the back.
decide under yourselves? I
Female,
can't quite
one
see.
female, one male. 2 questions.
Danny, congratulations on your sobriety.
Thank you.
I do know how difficult it is. My concern is my son is already predisposed to being addicted. Okay, I believe that it's part of my DNA. I believe that he does. How the hell can you sell me the idea, and I'm not talking about marijuana, but that narcotics should be decriminalized? My son, who's already at risk, is going to have access to drugs that could have killed me, could have killed him.
So he's saying that if you decriminalize it, that you're going to increase access, and that his son would fall victim to that.
So can I? Okay, sorry. So I mean, just the way they do it in Portugal is that instead of you going to get your heroin fix from somebody on the street, and you're not quite sure what the heroin's mixed with, you're having to, you're giving your money to the underworld. What you do is you go to a proper clinic, very very clinical, where you've got 4 health workers, and they'll sit and they'll talk to your son. They'll try to find out, exactly, why he's got this addiction, and they will, obviously try to persuade him, to stop. But I mean, once you're actually on heroin, you're not just going to stop like that. So they will then give you your needles, and the state will supply you with your methadone or whatever the alternative drug is. But every time you come in, they'll sit you down, they'll talk to you. And when you're ready, they have clinics which they'll then send you to try to help you get off, so you're completely clean again, and can get back and be a useful member of society. The alternative is you go to the underworld to get it, and that's what everybody's doing today. And then your son is likely to end up with dirty needles, likely to end up with hepatitis C, likely to end up with HIV, which is basically likely to be a death sentence. I think the alternative is a much more humane way of doing it.
A woman back there? Yeah.
So, Branson, I was wondering what inspired you to be a part of this movement?
The question was what inspired him to be part of this movement.
Well, I'm involved in an organization called the Elders, which was set up by Nelson Mandela and Gracia Michel to deal with conflict resolution issues. And one of the elders is President Cardoso, who used to be president of Brazil. So you've just seen him in the film. And one of the elders' meetings, he just said, look, we've got 18 ex-presidents, all of whom are kicking themselves for not being brave when they were in power. We need an entrepreneur who can come and work with us, who can see it from an entrepreneurial point of view, and maybe is good at trying to get the message out. I said, look, I'd be delighted to look at all the facts, and if the facts stack up, then I'll be happy to spend some of my time flying around the world trying to get the message out, and hence I'm here today.
All right. One quick comment, Mayor.
I try to learn from everything I go to, and when you talked about branding and the criticism back here, I thought rather than say decriminalization of drugs, I mean a better brand. And I need you guys to fill in the word, and there has to be another word there, like the clinicization. I mean, but something better word.
Health problem, not a criminal problem, is one.
Right, I love that, but but people say decriminalization. If there was another, like the clinicization of drugs as our model. I'm sorry?
Humanization sounds good.
Yeah.
Although maybe people think that's popular.
Well, you have an assignment. We have to wrap it up there.
That would allow politicians, I think, to say it in a way that, quote, was, allowed them to really to be aggressive about it rather than defensive about it.
Fair enough. I want to thank the panel, Margaret, Danny, the Mayor, Richard, and Mark. Thank you so much. Let's round their applause.